If you can hear me, sorry about the technical issues there. Today, Thursday, is the last day of the campaigns, Grace. What more can you tell us? What are the candidates telling voters in their last minute, call to woo the voters their way?
Well, as in with all campaigns, what they have been saying all along since the electoral law allows them to start campaigning and going around to conduct rallies, they are just trying to convince the voters that they are the best candidates for them. Today, the two major political parties, as they call them, the big two, that is the APC and the PDP, both party candidates had their rallies in their hometown. President Muhammadu Buhari, who is seeking second term in office, had his rally in Katsina, while Atiku Abubakar had his own in Adamawa. So they had big crowds, and they call them semi-mega rallies because they had their rallies, like the APC had their mega rally yesterday in Abuja.
Now, Grace, what stands out as the major difference between Atiku and Buhari's call to voters? How does their campaign differ?
Well, President Muhammadu Buhari, for one, has said that he is not changing what he stands for since these 4 years. When he started campaigning the last 4 years, his major issues are three. That is economy, corruption, and security. So that is what he has been campaigning over. And then President Atiku, the vice president, former vice president Atiku Abubakar, that is the PDP candidate, is talking about youth employment, is talking about giving women 30%, that is just 5% less than the affirmative action, and he's talking about economy too. He's talking about agriculture, so he has more issues on the table than what President Muhammadu Buhari is saying that he wants to address. That is the three major issues that he's campaigning on: corruption, economy, and security.
But what are the key things that the general population in Nigeria want to see happen with the coming administration?
Well, I think security still remains a very important issue in Nigeria. There's also the issue of poverty, that is unemployment and economy. Those issues are also very, very important in the hearts of people in Nigeria. So those are the issues that you see people talking about. But even though these candidates, each one of them in different ways is talking about addressing those issues, but you can see that when you talk to Nigerians, you will see that depending on which candidates they are routing for, they seem to see one candidate able to address those issues more or better than the other candidates. So those are the issues that Nigerians are talking about.
So what happens tomorrow, Friday, since there are no campaigns? Do the presidential candidates make any calls? Do they go on social media to try to get the last-minute votes? What happens?
Well, since INEC, by the guidelines, they are supposed to stop campaigning tonight, usually they use the last day, which is tomorrow, Friday, to do what I will call their style of door-to-door campaign. Whereas the political parties rally around, major party supporters, what they do, what they've not been able to do in 3 months, that is what they do on the last day. I can tell you that sometimes that last effort is what counts, because what people have been able to do in 3 months, somebody can go and undo it just in 1 day. So that is very, very important. So what they do is they ask every party supporter to just go back to his locality and just convince the people in the community, to go and vote, because they don't stop you from going to your community, or your supporters to canvass for votes. So that is what they use that last day to do, to just go door to door, house to house, to just convince people that we are the better party and we will be able to deliver more.
Grace, there were some, unsubstantiated claims about what time the polls open on Saturday. Some saying 6 to 2 p.m., others saying 6 to 6 p.m. What is the situation? When do they open? When do they close? And how far do people have to go to vote? Because we know Nigeria, sometimes the traffic is an issue. What happens Saturday?
Yes, as I'm talking to you, I'm right now on INEC website. Mm-hmm. What happens on election day, just like you are asking, election, they open, the voting and accreditation starts at 8 a.m. And then they say that the voting is supposed to start at 2 p.m. But INEC is saying that if voters are on the queue before polls close at 2 p.m., they will be accredited and then they will be also allowed to vote. So that's what INEC is saying.
In terms of logistics,
accreditation and opening starts 8 to 2. But if you are on the line, they allow you to vote. And then, of course, there's restriction of movement. You have to be either a INEC official, election observer, media, essential worker for INEC, which you have to have tag on your vehicle. You have to have accreditation cards with your photographs stamped by INEC before you'll be allowed to move around. So it is expected that every voter should vote within walking distance from his house, otherwise he will not be allowed to vote.
Now, we know that a woman presidential candidate withdrew. What are women expecting from this election, generally?
Well, like I said, what women usually do is to use that advantage to remind the candidates about the 35% affirmative action and, a law or an agreement that Nigeria was a signatory to, but unfortunately in the past they have not been able to achieve that. So what they are trying to do each election season is to remind candidates about that. So this time around, they also did that. Whether they will get what they want is yet to be seen. It's something that they will have to wait and see. But I can tell you that Atiku Abubakar is one candidate that has been hammering on that and promising that when he is elected into office, he's going to give the women 30% while giving the youth 40%. So he's more or less leaning on between getting support from the youth and the women.
Now, Grace, both candidates are from the north. And so people are wondering, what are the dynamics here in terms of, trying to make the other people from the southern part of Nigeria and elsewhere to feel that they're included in this election, they're part of Nigeria. How is that going for most electorate? What do they feel?
Well, as you know, President Buhari, as you know, President Muhammadu Buhari's vice president is from the south, while Atiku Abubakar picked his vice president from the east. So Atiku Abubakar, in his campaign, he keeps saying that he is a true Nigerian because one of his wives is from the south, one is from the east, and one is from the north. So he talks about him being the true Nigerian and somebody that will accommodate and go with everybody. So being the fact that both candidates are from the north, while they are both from the north, secondly, they are both Muslims, thirdly, they are both Fulanis. So they have, I think, equal advantage as far as the northern part of Nigeria is concerned. What happens in the east and south and other parts of the country is left to be seen.
Now, Grace, let's talk about Boko Haram, which has been a threat to the country and even the region. What are the two candidates promising in terms of tackling and making sure that Nigerians can say we are free from this militant group?
Well, President Muhammadu Buhari is saying that he's on course. He has been saying that to a large extent he has been able to reduce the attacks of Boko Haram or to push them back from how it was when he came into the office, while Atiku Abubakar is saying that whatever this administration is doing is not working, even though he's accepting the fact that within a period of time there was like less attack, but as you know, even yesterday there was an attack on the convoy of the governor of Borno State. So he is saying that he's going to adopt a different approach so that he will nip this problem in the bud.
Well, Grace, the other issue of Nigeria, which, you know, most Nigerians feel so bad about, is when they're associated with corruption. Now, what are the two candidates promising to do about corruption, and how do their campaign policies in terms of fighting corruption differ?
Well, President Muhammadu Buhari has been saying that that is one thing that he campaigned and promised Nigerians that he's going to do, and he's doing just that within the last 3.5 years since he came into the office, and it's something that he wants to see continue if elected for the second term. While, on the other hand, Atiku Abubakar is saying that corruption is a symptom of something. And so he is saying that if people are well educated, if people have employment, if people have the right policies put in place, there will be less corruption. So that is what he's trying to address. He wants to address the causes of corruption. That's the difference between the two political parties. But both of them agree that there's corruption in Nigeria, and each one of them is trying to solve that problem in a different way.
Well, you mentioned unemployment, and that has been an issue not only in Nigeria but elsewhere. But in terms of the youth employment, what are they promising? Because the larger population of Nigeria are the youth.
Well, I can tell you that you remember this not too young to run law that has been signed in Nigeria. So, but Atiku Abubakar is saying that even though he knows that he does not belong, to that category of the youth, if, going by the definition of who a young person is, he is promising that if elected into office, he's going to make sure that 40% of people in government, people that is going to bring in government appointees, political appointees, are going to be youth. As a matter of fact, he is saying that if he has a minister of state who is an older person, he's going to give a younger person minister of state. That way, one, the young people will get employed, and then they will also be the ones to bring up and give opportunity to younger ones, because like they're saying, he who feels it knows it. Mm-hmm. So he's saying that that is one way of bringing the youth into governance and drawing them close so that they will be able to help their fellow youth.
Right, Grace.
And he also talks about gainful employment.
Right. Grace, thank you so much. Many, many thanks to you for bringing us up to speed with what's going on in Nigeria. That is Grace Alheri Abdu reporting for us from Abuja.